Well, welcome back to Tarot for Our Times with Sarah, your medium on the go. Now, in light of the latest trip, I call it the bribery trip to the Middle East, with the worst kind of terrorist supporting nations and funding them, Saudi Arabia, who brought us 9/11, and the murder, and that prince that Trump called hot, who murdered a reporter. I won't go into the details, it's pretty disgusting, but it really does show the very worst about where we're at now. And so I do want to see about how these 21st century robber barons they're killing our finances, but they're also killing our souls, and it's a very bad spiritual message that they're sending out. So in my thumbnail I have the King of Pentacles in reverse, but I have it of course as Trump. He's all done up on an old robber baron cartoon, which is telling it's an indication that we have been through this before. I'm from Pittsburgh, and I know all about the Fricks, the Carnegies, and all those people who are pretty tame compared to what we've got now. But at any rate, so the King of Pentacles in reverse is about the corrupt king, the robber baron king, the criminal king, who will do anything for money. It's greed. He cannot get enough of it. So if you look at my thumbnail, that pretty much says where we are. So I have to tell you, I did a reading for a group of people last evening. They all work at banks, and I think what I learned about that is that people that work in banks are like people that work in food and beverage, whether it's banquets or a la carte. Is that when I used to do that kind of work, we sort of like know each other from all the different places we've worked. We've worked at different hotels and restaurants. So these people, it's the same thing. They all they all know each other from working together at various banks. So they were all bank workers at different levels, and a couple different banks and a bunch of different branches. So I tell you this because of what kept coming up in the readings last night, that it isn't just one rotten apple in the barrel, but what kept coming up with similar cards was that there's been some hanky-panky. That in one instances there's been embezzlement, there's been all kinds of stuff going on, and one of the clients was a supervisor of the bank, and telling me that they had caught someone embezzling, and the cards were telling me it goes beyond this one person. So the bank is a good example. Goes on in restaurants where people in restaurants will steal the till blind. They, even with the computerized ones, they can still do it. Trust me. I know it. I've seen it, but it seems to be. It's always been around, but it seems to be getting worse, and it's because of the mindset. It's a vicious circle, because if the oligarchs and the robber barons of today get their way, they want to put us into more poverty, which means that when people, and it's the old city, a story of the immigrants working these god-awful jobs, living in these terrible neighborhoods like the Lower East Side of New York back in the late 19th, early 20th century, where they worked in awful conditions. So when every single ethnic group you can imagine started running the neighborhood and doing the protection thing and extorting businesses for money, all of that becomes very tempting to do. because if you're scrape, not everybody does it, but it is a big temptation, because as people are not even making enough to eat, then of course going into a life of crime looks very tempting. And it's the story that never dies. And then when you come to think of it, those people at the top probably started out that way. I know Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie was he worked some menial job before he built his big empire. And a lot of them did. And the thing is that the poor slob that's not even scraping by, they're not getting a really good example set by those people on top. And so, just as there were like big political scandals 120 and 30 years ago, it seems like it goes in cycles. It seems like we're back at that. So you look at the workplace, whether it's a bank is like a candy store. I mean, it really is. I don't think I'd be clever enough to do this, but I know that people that have some computer skills and are smart, they can do it until they get caught, or maybe they don't get caught. And so this also goes to this is like in the movies. I always think of The Godfather, and it is about the poor immigrant family. And Vito Corleone lives in. He sees the whoever that guy was who's extorting the shop owners. Well, he does him in, and he does it, but he gets smarter because he deals with them in a more compassionate way than his predecessor did. But it's how crime families get started, whether they're on the whichever side of the supposed law that they're on. But we have a tendency to make them as heroes, and I did talk about that some months ago, and about the worship of celebrities and rich people. But this reading is more about how it affects us, and that we excuse a lot because it's money. And this is exactly what our present regime is doing. I mean, what this whole thing in the Middle East, if any previous president had done that, it would be, oh my God, they'd have their asses hauled before Congress, and they'd be probably impeached and convicted, no matter which party is running it. I mean, there's just some things that are a bridge too far. But now, and it goes back to that Godfather movie, which I'm sure everybody has seen, and they justify the killings and this and that because it's business. It's business. And in fact, the big christening scene where Michael has ordered all of the hits, and the brilliant editing where the priest is baptizing the baby, and Michael as Godfather is saying, do you denounce Satan, this and that, and then they cut to all these people getting killed. And the fact that he began as a pretty innocent person, but he got caught up in the whole emotional thing. He wasn't supposed to, he was supposed to be in the legit side of the family, but certain things led him to being probably worse than his father was. But, and I especially, in fact, I did mention this in one of the readings, that when Tessio turns out to be the traitor, and he's supposed to be killed after the christening. He was played by Abe Vigoda, and he knows his fate, but he says to the guy, he says, I think to Clemenza or one of them, like, can't you give me a pass for old time's sake? And he says, sorry, it's business. And that's where we are as a society. It's like so many things are excused in the name of business. And now we have it up front and center. So I did want to give you a little bit of a longer intro to this, because it is a sickness in our society, and I'm sure that Europeans have their own version of this. Although I somehow think it isn't quite as toxic as it is here. But they do love our movies. So, what I do want to do a reading on how these robber barons are killing our finances and our soul. I thought maybe I would do a couple separate readings, but as I tell my clients, like love and money, and it's all tied together. It's all very much of the similar energy. So I think that we'll be able to do this. And again, as anything else comes up, like, oh, I need to read on this, I will see how that evolves and probably do that as the shorter readings. So I've been and I'm telling you, I can't believe how similar those readings were. And I really shuffled the cards because I was on the first floor and the party was up like about 4 or 5 flights of steps in this very tall house. So it took them quite a while to get up and send the next person down. So believe me, I had lots of time to shuffle the cards, but I could not believe how those read in that respect turned out to be so similar. So I think it is a picture of how our society is. So, okay, so we're going to see, like, where are we at right now with these oligarchs, robber barons. Okay. Ace of Wands reversed. Ace of Wands reversed, that in our desire to set the world on fire, we're getting burned out. And so this is probably not the best for our health, psychologically, physically. You know, we bought into the whole, well, you know, I think a lot can be done with hard work, but we've also been fed a little bit of a myth about this, but maybe it's about putting your energies in the wrong direction and being burned out. And I think that may be where we are right now as a result of this. We're pretty weary. It's like the scandal du jour kind of thing. So leading up to this, we have the very interesting, in the before tarot, we have the Five of Wands with the youngins that are getting their weapons and they're getting ready to fight. So when they're, and that's, I do believe this is upright. You got to show it upright. So I do believe that there is a competitiveness. This greed brings out a competitiveness that, you know, when people go to work and there's money involved, whether you work in a bank or whether you work as in a profession where tips are involved in the whole thing, then you're ready to do battle for the better stations, the more tables, the this, the that, or the better parties with the better tip pool and the banquet. I mean, so people are in a combative stage, as it is. And then what comes after that is it's that Three of Cups celebration. So it's like that we find things to celebrate, and a lot of times it might be maybe celebrating and going out and partying, which isn't very good for holding on to the money. So that this is what we're celebrating this wealth thing that's going on. So the energy behind this is it's a dog eat dog world, and people are just stabbing each other in the back, and also striving for so much of this, and you eventually you can hit bottom with this sort of thing. So this is the energy around this, and so the underlying reasons for all of this, we have the a page of swords, once again getting ready to give the message that this is the most important thing in your life, and this is You know, and the whole thing with all of these crooks in our government getting a pass on this. This is the new message. And then, then we have the smug merchant. The merchant who's very, very comfortable in his position, but that's not a real long-lasting thing. And I think this may be where the oligarchy is. They think they've got it all wrapped up, although he's been having meltdown after meltdown this weekend, so the people around him may be complacent, but he isn't. He's too much of a loose cannon. I wonder if they're starting to realize that. Okay. And then we have so we have robber baron over here who's been taking the goodies, but the price to be paid is you may win, but the people, you lose the love of the people, which may be something that's going on. So you may be grabbing the goodies, but there is a price to be paid in human relationships. Okay, so in opposition of this we have, can't make this stuff up, it's a heavy burden to carry. Now, for those of you who may still be a little envious of these people, it's not only the wheeling and the dealing and the, trying to keep yourself away from the SEC or whatever, it's about staying on the top. And in health insurance CEOs and probably other CEOs, it's about not getting yourself unalived by some young person who has an axe to grind with that. So, and and I don't wish that on anybody, but this card says, well, what do you think's going to happen? What do you think? This people having lack of money or having lack of health care has a tendency to kind of make people crazy and desperate when they have nothing to lose. So that also puts the burden on those on top. So we got that going. I didn't realize my mic is not far away. Okay, so on the conscious level with us as a society collectively, we have, we are really trying to look a way out of all of the heartbreak and the betrayal that we have been suffering through with this, and maybe having to take a look inside just by saying, is all that money going to really stop the heartache? But it's also about seeing that these people these rich people that we thought are so great are willing to sell out our country. So this may be an awakening. The Three of Swords in reverse may be a little bit of a wake-up call about that. So then on the subconscious level is the Wheel of Fortune. And this is kind of a double-edged sword here, this Wheel of Fortune, in regard to this topic, is that, I guess we'll keep buying our lottery tickets when we remember to. Oh, I forgot. Okay, so there's always that hope that we can maybe strike it rich like these people have, but also is it really about money, or is it maybe about just a happier life and and being able to have a clear conscience? So underlying is the Wheel of Fortune is saying, but this presents a conflict, because what really is fortune? And it's keeping that devil down below. So, okay, so in the past, with all of this, we have The Knight of Swords just charging in with the message like, oh, wouldn't it be great to have all their money? And, he just kind of charges through with that message, not really thinking about, giving much thought about there is a price to be paid. Because in this guy here, a lot of these CEO, like healthcare CEOs, they don't have the freedom to just go out and take a walk or meet somebody for coffee or, any of that stuff that we take for granted. So the message is brought through without thinking about this and some of these other things. So, okay. So in our world of the present, we have the Five of Pentacles, which is impoverishment. And I think a lot of people right now are really afraid of that because, just face it, we're not getting a very big piece of that pie. And that is the very worrisome part about all of this. It's also what people kind of overlook is it's not only the impoverishment financially, but that this is a church window and it does represent spirituality. So they're kind of out in the snow worrying about being poor, yet not trying to get the help they could, and knowing that there may be a spiritual component to keep them going. So this is kind of where we're at right now. And we didn't get all the lower prices of I mean, you can, but you have to be really smart about where you shop. I mean, if I go to Trader Joe's on the weekends, if they have any eggs left, it's going to be like, forget it. If I need eggs right away, it's a half a dozen. But if I go to Costco in the middle of the week, that's when they have it at the lower price. So it's kind of like knowing not only what stores to hit, but when you hit them. So you've got to be a lot more aware. So coming up in the not too distant future, we have, we are seeing the worst of ourselves. I mean, we really are seeing how we need to integrate our ego and our spiritual side. I think what the moon is saying is that right now we're in a dog eat dog world, and that the ego, which you do need it to a certain degree, but the ego may be canceling out the tamer dog. The feral dog is winning on so many different instances, and they're pretty close to that lower base feeling of evolution. So I would say that we are in a situation where we're working out of the base chakra, which is that very primitive, that need to survive, and the need to eat or have sex or whatever, just our very base nature. But the sun and the moon, they're there to illuminate all of that. But this isn't looking too great. I think what I'll say, if things continue the way that they are, so I think I'll do a little after tarot for looking a little bit more into the future. And then we have the Ace of Wands with our friend the Salamander, which means that in looking at all of this, we have a chance to transform. And the thing is, it's interesting coming after the Moon card, because the Moon card is telling us to take a look at our darker nature, because all of this greed and maybe even hating the people, which you can't help but to do that, we get in touch with our shadow, the Jungian shadow side of our nature, and we take a look and see. We can't deny it because that's part of how we survive, but we can't let it dominate us. So we have a chance to look at all of this and to do some transformation. And then, again, we have the moon. It's funny with these, I kind of see them a little bit differently, but of course it depends on where they fall. So I see a figure. I don't know if she's like a goddess kind of a figure, or maybe she is maybe she is a high priestess, I guess, depending on how it falls with the others. She could be a high priestess figure, because she's awfully close to these going between their tarot pillars of transformation. Interesting, coming out of this Ace of Wands, that these the primitive and the tame dog are taking a look at her. And so she's pretty close to it, but she's not yet there. I think what she's saying, I've got to get these two natures of my psyche together and do some more introspection and see where I fit into this picture, and then I can meet those pillars. So I'm going to do a little bit more, because this is very interesting to get two moon cards with an Ace of Wands, and that's why I used multiple decks. Not okay. So then, going further into the future is our Two of Wands in reverse, which is telling me, okay, so she's given the swords of indecision of her thoughts to these two male figures, always looking for the guy to solve the problem. But it's also so she can not be burdened with them anymore, and open her heart. She does know the answer. Apparently she cannot depend on them to give it to her. Maybe that's why she's handed over the swords. But she really needs to take off the blindfold to see that she has the answer that she may not like. So I'd say this is really the time where we can do a lot of soul searching. So in our hopes and our fears, I think I need to do two cards. So do a hope and a fear card. Okay, in the hope card we have, we're always hoping for that big payday. See, this is where this comes in. This is how it affects us. We're always hoping for the big payday, or nobody would ever buy lottery tickets. So here is the hope of that. And it's interesting that it didn't come up in reverse, because we always want to think we're getting the money in a legit way. So that may be a fantasy. That may be a fantasy if we all daydream about hitting the jackpot in some way. But what is the fear of that? The fear of that is, oh my goodness. The fear is that easy come, easy go. The fear is losing it. So we will hang on to it for dear life. That's why I think this comes down to this whole thing that I have been realizing with, whether it's FOTUS or the muskrat or those douchebags in Silicon Valley, our modern day really geeky incel robber baron types, is that they're afraid of losing it. So in being afraid of losing it, they will not only hang on to it, but feel they need more. And so this is the fear that's really driving this whole thing. It's very, very sick. It's very sick. And it goes to, having been involved in the theater, is that it's about the people getting to the top, but realizing, wow, I had to fight to really get that principal role in that Broadway show. But now, there's a younger, cuter person coming in. Now I've got to fight to keep it. Oh, who knew that? Surprise. And this is very much of the same energy. So as we push these over here. So So kind of like in conclusion of this, we have there's so much emotion. Probably, the people that have hit the Powerball and all this sort of thing feel a tremendous amount of good emotion when it comes in. So I feel like I've got to do a kind of like what I do at the beginning of the reading here. Okay, the initial joy of coming into the riches, although that cup isn't very big, so that water of happiness is going to be running out eventually. So beforehand, before the rainbow, we're struggling to come in from the rain, but this card is in reverse, and I would say in this case that instead of it being the opposite, sometimes the reversal is even stronger energy, with that very, very stronger energy, and running from that rain in hopes of seeing the rainbow. So here's the rainbow. Here's Mr. Rainbow. Whoops. Or the joy, the sheer joy, the initial joy in the Ace of Cups. So in the after tarot, what comes right after, immediately after that is, the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. And I have to put this card from the regular deck up because see, the elements of the zodiac and all this other stuff that makes it possible, see, it's really out there, up front and vibrant. In the before card, they're not there at all, but they're really kind of hazy and faded in this card. So we have the whole element of the devil coming into this, about people that may want to kidnap your children or something. I mean, and believe me, that is a real fear. That there is the downside of people trying to con you and people hounding you, and or else that you may be not doing the most beneficial things for your, with your money for mankind. And then then we have the Four of Pentacles. So following this is seeing the downside, and that sometimes it can be a curse. So the underlying energy of this conclusion is it's seeking that rainbow and the happiness. But that's also the happiness that is, rainbows are fleeting, and you need to go through the rainstorm. And if these people in this happy family thinks that rainbow's going to stay there forever, they're in for a big disappointment. So that is, and here we have that in the, so that is a very interesting that these, so that is a very important energy, is that you have all of this, but you have this, but rainbows fade. They do fade, and you have to wake up to reality. So, underlying this, the Queen of Cups in reverse, which is telling me that people have to realize it's not going to make them necessarily a better person. If you're a neurotic, manipulative, or alcoholic person, that isn't going to fix you, but they're under the impression that it will. And you look at the people like the Trumps and the Musks. I mean, that their family lives are like very, very dysfunctional, and unless they get the therapy, and don't hold your breath on that, it isn't going to get better. It's only going to get worse. That doesn't fix you. So that's part of the big lesson of this. Then we have the bargaining, and what are we going to do with this? And I will have to say that these people out here setting the example are not doing the highest and the best. Now, they may go to the charity things to raise all kind of money, but a lot of these organizations in this energy, we're talking about money laundering and them ending up in the Swiss bank and the Cayman Islands and all this stuff. So there's not that much money that goes to the charities, but this guy is selling them the bill of goods, like if you pay for this sculpture or you do this or that, you're going to be doing the good for mankind. So that's a big lie that could be told. Then we have the Magician in reverse. And what is happening now is that instead of people using their talents for the better and the good, that we are so tied up in this whole materialistic thing, is that people are using these whatever abilities they have for their own personal gain, and the rest of the world be screwed. And that is the big thing. This comes up to the terrible example that our so-called leader he's ready to throw anybody under the bus. And this is the Magician in reverse, is the rock star who will you'll have a great time with him tonight, but don't expect him to be there in the morning when he's in reverse. And he will charm you and with all of his talents and his brilliance, but that's just not a really nice thing to do to people. So this is all about using and abusing people and discarding them when you're through. So this is realizing that, it gets me to another issue. I think there may be some value to some of these people online who have their, law of attraction videos. I thought The Secret was interesting, although I had a lot of issues with some of the chapters in that, but they didn't give you the whole picture. But a lot of this, there's some of these people making law of attraction videos who have some good ideas, but it can be, you have to watch out, because that can be a big pyramid scheme. Like, this is sort of I would call this spiritual crypto, and which means is that they're selling their books, they're making $1 zillion on their YouTube videos and selling their books and this and that, but then the poor schmuck, they buy their books, they take their workshops and find out, well, they're not really getting they're not getting the money and the benefits and the lifestyle and the beautiful young adoring woman at their feet and soaking up every word that they have. So you have to be kind of realistic, use some of the principles of it, but know that that this is meant to inspire you to take some steps, that you just can't wish the money. And see, this is whether they're politicians or those Joel Osteen, religious douchebag types, that all they're doing is picking your pocket. So you have to take a lot of this, use the suggestions, but you don't have to, spend $1 zillion on their workshops. You can learn a lot of this on your own, but we're so set up that it's just like, oh, easy come, easy go. And this is what the Magician in reverse is back about, is the guru. The guru effect is, I'm going to show you how to be rich, but in the meantime, I'm going to get rich, and maybe you aren't. So they're appealing to the greed. They are appealing to the greed, saying, if you pay me money, I'll give you some of these gifts that I have. So that's a very toxic thing. But as I said in the beginning, as we come full circle, is that this really is cyclical. It's just we you know we have been through this before, and what happens is that it's not sustainable. The whole thing has to crumble. It didn't work in 1887 forever, and it's not going to work this way because they're basically doing the same thing that they did back then. So I just want to take a little quickie 4-card read and see, put these aside, and just to see where is this going to go. I mean, there's a lot of free choice in that we can take this opportunity to say, these people are really not the happiest. They're spiritually bankrupt, even with all of their money. And who knows how long they're going to be able to hold on to their money. Look at the Vanderbilts and the Rockefellers and a lot of these people. That money has gotten watered down over generations because the kids went out and spent it. Their grandparents hard earned money, and all their wonderful mansions on Fifth Avenue in New York, they're gone now. So, okay, so we got the base card, we got the energy, a little bit of a before, and a little bit of an after. Okay, so what's going to happen with this? Where is this going? Because this is not, it's very unhealthy. And this whole thing of dealing with terrorists for money, that is like the worst of it. That is really the worst of it. So where we are now, looking out for the future. But this is also talking about that foreign thing too, with Russian oligarchs and the Arab terrorist oligarch thing too that we're looking at overseas. What this is also telling me is that I believe that this could have been a plan B, and I've talked about this before, a plan B. I need to go and exile trip, and I'm getting all, because he's gotten a lot of money. I'm going to get the money and then maybe go to these countries without the extradition treaties and all that sort of thing. So they are looking overseas because this isn't sustainable. Americans get very rebellious after they've been screwed over enough. So the energy with this is there's going to be a lot happening, an awful lot happening when some people wake up and realize we're being played. So let's see what's leading up to all of this is, okay, look at this guy's face. Look at his face. He is not a happy camper here. This is about the Seven of Pentacles is all about, before he's even done tilling the soil of the poisonous fruit from the poisonous tree, he's saying, what did I do here? This is, but the thing is, like, I guess this is with the MAGA voters realizing, oh, okay, this is turning out to be a big pile of crap, but I'm just going to continue and finish it and hope it turns out different. But it's kind of like, uh-oh, this is not good at all. And see what follows this is the Chariot in reverse. And see, these guys, they're not even hitched up to the Chariot, and Chariot in reverse is saying we're not going anywhere for a while. So it could be the realization that we simply cannot move forward as a nation. And there is a spiritual element about money and how we earn it, how we handle it, and this is saying we can't even negotiate with these people either, because this is about moving forward with negotiations. We can't they cannot hitch themselves to our wagon, so to speak. So this isn't going anywhere for a while. What this is telling me is that there may be have there may have to be a little bit more of suffering on the MAGA or the Republican end. They are kind of peeling off little by little, but there will be more peeling off, but we need to have more that become discouraged. So there may be some hope, but like with the rest of this regime, we're going to have to suffer with this for a while longer. But the thing with them problem with them moving so fast as they have with all of this stuff, the Muskrat and all this crap, and his Doge Boys, all this crap, is that as fast as it gets put in place, which has been careless, the faster it can fall apart. And I think I will have to wrap up by saying I saw on YouTube a very short, let's see, it's both Rachel Maddow and I also saw Glenn Kirshner, and a couple of short videos saying the courts ordering these federal people that got fired, they have to be put back to work. And now they are going back to work. Whether the Muskrat and Fotis and the little ball boys like it or not, that's what's happening. So as fast, it's like an easy come, this is easy come, easy go. So as fast as it can come in, it goes out just as fast. So with that, there is some hope, but with a little bit more of suffering. So on that note, I will see you soon. Bye. Oops.